What's shaking, everybody? My name is Ross Mandel. I'm coming to you from Delray Beach, Florida, Scott Woolley Studios. And what an extraordinary guest I have for you today. The man's name is Carlton Washington. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
My brother, so nice to see you here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
And I just want you to know, you probably can't tell because he's sitting down. He's 6'5".
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
6'5", what, 250?
240 and going down.
240. He's lean. He's long. He's handsome, ladies. I mean, Vin Diesel has nothing on this cat. I'm just going to say right now. And Carlton is the founder,
Co-founder,
yes, principal owner of Forever Young
Anti-Aging Solutions.
Anti-Aging Solutions, health clinics. This is, ladies, gentlemen, this is the future right here. To my knowledge, it is the leader. It's the biggest
In the
brand.
in the vitality space, yeah. We're a combination of med spa and wellness all in one. And so in that category right now, we're the largest by unit count.
Wow, I'm going to just throw a couple of quick punchline. Ozempic?
Definitely.
Laser treatments?
Yes.
Ladies, are you listening? What? Testosterone.
For sure. For men and women.
TRT, replacement hormone. What? I mean, this is it. This is why this cat looks so beautiful. Can you just imagine? So vitality, longevity, health, med spa, beauty. I mean, all of these words are spectacular words, man. You bringing this to the world, right?
That's what we're doing.
When did you start all this, Carlton?
My partner and I, we started in 2014, and we don't have medical backgrounds, but I always tell people this really came out of like a depression and really a desperate need to do something that actually mattered. And I was in financial services before. I really felt like I was getting to a point where we were doing more harm than good.
I get that.
And it was mundane after 08, 09. We lost all of our authority, too much regulation. And most of my time I spent, pissing people off in some shape or form. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And so really wanted to try something that I knew I could stand behind. I was a patient of hormone replacement. It changed my life, testosterone, in terms of, outperforming my peers and trying to stay as young as possible. I knew that worked. And so we just decided to go for it.
In 2014, I was checking into FCI Miami to begin a 144-month sentence. So, and you were checking out of financial services.
Yes, sir.
Which is overregulated, and sometimes you feel like you're selling people stuff they don't really need or want. And you walk into what I consider to be one of the most noble professions. I really mean that because in 05, I had a medical company I owned. I had an office at a clinic in Meister Park, as a matter of fact. Okay. I had 10,000 square feet. And my doctor comes to me. His name was Dr. Jeffrey Perlman. He says, listen, we got a great opportunity, anti-aging medicine. I want to go to Orlando. I want to get certified. We went into this whole thing. And testosterone, growth hormone, et cetera, DECA, it changed my life.
All right.
Changed my life instantly, and I urge you all to explore this and understand it, because it used to be when I was growing up, I'm much older than you all, Carl, it was back at the gym kind of stuff.
Right.
A guy would open up his locker, take out a gym bag, and he had some vials with funky labels, right? And, he'd sell it to you, and it was all very sketchy and all those things. And today, I get my test from CVS.
Right.
Now, my insurance company pays for it.
We've come a long way.
That's right. Humana, thank you. I appreciate you, CVS. You got my business. And so, we met under crazy circumstances. And I feel really, really grateful and proud to be able to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
In the flesh. And I want to try and unravel you a little bit, because you're a very interesting cat as far as guys go, in my opinion. You got winner. You might as well just have a W engraved in that head of yours.
Oh, thank you, man.
And, obviously I Googled you, and we looked on Instagram, and I follow you, and I understand you have a beautiful family. but your life might not have started as fortuitous and successful and as glamorous maybe as it is now. So we met at probably the hottest Christmas party in the history of Boca Raton.
Thank you, man.
That's what people were saying. This was wild.
Yeah.
By the Town Center Mall. I guess you have a store there, correct?
Yeah, we have that building right over there by Nordstrom's. So
You had, normally a big problem. You go up to a big place, parking's an issue. 20 valet parkers, no fee, no charge. I'm like, what's up? These guys are probably just stealing cars. We're never going to see the car again. And then we walk, and there's all these young, very attractive model types. You must have hired a whole model agency or two to come work and prep and to say hey and provide dances and flamethrowers and guys on stilts and a red carpet and a VIP and a tremendous open bar with the top shelf liquor.
Yeah.
The gentleman that I was with, one of my dearest friends, he said, Rossi, this is something. I said, why? He goes, this is top shelf liquor. This is no funnel bullshit job.
Right.
These are real guys.
Yeah.
I said, I guess so. The DJ was great, and there was a lot of attractive women and men, all ages. I mean, really. And I guess you sort of recognized me from
I followed you. I was familiar with your story from when I was in financial services. I'm an avid reader, love reading the paper. I mean, back then it was newspaper and the news, and Google, and so I was familiar. And then I was already following you as well. And then I saw you. I was like, that's Ross, and I just ran over to you and said, "What's up, man?"
I'm sitting down, resting my sore back, and this looks like a defensive end, for the Dolphins comes rushing me, and I'm like, "What? Did I say something? Am I hitting on someone's wife? I mean, what?" And you were just charming and lovely and very gracious, and I appreciate that. And we had a great chance to meet and chat a little bit. And then as soon as you walked away, like 20 people came over and says, "Who are you? I never saw Carlton act this way. I mean, must be something important, I said,
good story. I mean, I'm definitely I watch podcasts, I do research. I was in financial services, familiar with your story before you started the podcast. So I just am intrigued by stories like that, And,
thank you so much. That's how we met at this, glamorous sort of, Boca Raton party. So when most people think of Boca Raton right away, you're on the glamour scale. I've called it the Beverly Hills of the East Coast.
Absolutely.
And, you're throwing the party of the year, and I'm just repeating that. This is what other people said, and that's how I ended up there. You have to come. You have to come. It's the party of the year. So I stopped over there, and I was like blown away. But having done some research on you, I've learned that you didn't come into this world, so to speak, in a very glamorous Boca Raton way. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Yeah, no problem. And again, thanks for having me here. No coincidences in life, it seems like sometimes.
I agree with that.
So, but yeah, I mean, my start is a little different than most, I would say. I mean, I was born in foster care in the Washington, D.C. area. Born to a young woman. I wasn't familiar with this until later in time, but that basically hid the pregnancy from her parents. She came from a law enforcement family and hid the pregnancy. She was living there the whole time, hid the pregnancy.
Wow,
and so when I was born, she had to do all the documentation and everything at night because she couldn't go into the courthouse because she was highly recognizable. Her dad was high up in law enforcement at the time. And,
really?
Yeah. And so obviously I'm not aware of any of this at the time. I'm just
a baby. You're a baby. You don't know anything. Luckily, we don't know anything.
But yeah, I ended up going to the foster care system, went to a couple different homes, and then I was placed with my parents who raised me, about a year later. And so I grew up originally in that Washington, D.C. area for about 8 years. Parents who raised me were great. Really kind of fit probably my needs based on, my personality and me not really being one to be tamed, I guess at the time. And so
I can relate.
But they raised me. Great parents, always give them credit.
Did you find out at some point
Yes, yeah, I did.
You were
So
just
my
adopted
parents
by your
always kind
parents?
of told me as far back as I can remember, probably when 8, 9 years old. And it was always a curiosity, but that curiosity didn't really start to grow until I was like maybe late teens, and I forgot about it. Then went to college and was distracted, and then kind of forgot about it. But later on, towards the end of being in school, I was like, I was going to school in Washington, D.C., and one day I just got the urge. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go down to the state, office and go see what they have. And the journey kind of started there in terms of searching for who I was, where I came from, and kind of went down that road. And it took me about 10 years, but I started getting some answers. And from there, I ended up meeting my mother. And then about 10 years after that, or about 8 years after that, I actually ended up meeting my biological father.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've unraveled your own, and I'm guessing you were somewhat successful at these points, right? Because
Yeah, I mean, at each time, I mean, when I met my mother, it was not a positive situation. I had to basically dragnet like the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Virginia, Maryland, and I just went through all the police departments and all the retirees, and then
you will not be
started
denied.
contacting.
That's who you are,
Yeah.
baby. I get it.
And I just got called so many people and shaken so many trees that I stumbled upon someone accidentally who was a volleyball coach who actually was doubling as an officer. And I never would have found her if they hadn't lied to her when she went back to work, because I basically put all my information in all the retirement forums and blogs for all the police officers in these different markets.
Oh my goodness.
And so when I contacted her at a school looking through yearbooks, she was like, I don't really know anything about this, but I saw your story at my department. I'm going to actually go and ask about this. And when she went to go ask seniors in the department, they told her to mind her own business and leave it alone.
Really?
Yes. And so the only reason she helped me was because she was like, when they told me to mind my own business, she was like, I knew not only was I on to something, but I don't like being told when to stop. And so she went and really went to investigate for me, and it sped up. After 10 years, we were talking about a matter of weeks. She's setting up meetings, and she went to the 911 dispatch and shared my story. And one of the dispatchers turned around and said, I know who that woman is.
Really?
Yes, because she had left everything that I had, and the information was blacked out with a Sharpie and then photocopied. But she left the most minute clues that she never thought anybody could have ever put together.
Right.
And she said that she had 2 brothers, worked for fire department, police station, police officers, and the father was a homicide robbery detective who worked in this department, and the mother had died of X disease. And so when she said that, the woman turned around and was like, I know who that is. And she's like, I know her. She's like, I just saw her 2 weeks ago. And so that woman went and had a dinner with my mother, and she freaked out. And so she freaked out, left the table screaming, and they knew, they were like, that's her. 100% that's her.
And when was it when you eventually reached out?
So I ended up reaching out to the brothers.
I got you.
Her brothers, and then who basically put me onto their son, which would be my cousin. They were all police officers.
And family, really?
Yeah.
Biological family.
So I immediately flew up there, and we went to knock on the door where she stayed, and that was pretty
Was it okay or
no?
not?
It was not okay.
Really?
She was staying in a mansion outside of Washington, D.C., in the basement as a caretaker for an Indian family, very wealthy Indian family, and she was taking care of their kids. And so I just showed up at the door with her nephew, who she hadn't seen in a year or two.
I feel like I got the chills here.
And she wouldn't come to the door at first, and they were like, "Well, who are you?" She sent the kids to the door, and I was like, "Tell her," she knew who I was by then. I think she kind of felt the heat coming because people had been asking.
Right.
So she wouldn't come outside. She called the police on me. Police came, and they were like, I'm sorry, man, but you just got to get off the property. And so I just waited at her property for a couple of hours until another guy walked up, and he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm waiting for this woman to come out the house. And I showed him the picture, and he was like, well, your story can't be true because this woman's 33 years old. And I was like, no, she's 53 years old. And so he was like, you're lying. I was like, okay, well, take the paperwork. You go, here's my number. I'm going to go sit in this church parking lot and just tell me if I'm lying, I'll leave. And so basically she had a false identity. She had fooled people into thinking she was 33 years old. She had dyed her hair. And so this destroyed her whole world when I showed up.
Oh, God.
So she freaked out on him. He ended up calming her down and taking her to an Italian restaurant. And he was like, when I text you, just walk in. And so I just walked
And
in.
you're
sat
like a
down.
big dude, so I'm just saying it's not like it's not like me walking in.
Yeah, I just walked in.
It was just, you're a big boy.
Yeah.
And a big presence, and it must have been emotionally. You must have been like.
It was pretty numb at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, because we walked into, imagine walking into a family-owned Italian restaurant full at prime time and sitting down, and she literally went ballistic. She lost her mind and caused a scene.
Really?
Said that, that I was in there trying to harm her. Imagine so me just sitting down with this woman.
I can't even imagine.
And so I had to just like kind of slowly walk out of the restaurant because everybody turned and was looking at.
Was there any further interaction after that?
She just went running to the car. I have it all on tape. She was in just like a rage, and so I ended up kind of getting my answer from that. I ended up flying back home. And the family of where she was staying ended up finding out about it from the kids. They were really concerned because they're like, we don't know who this woman is now.
Right.
And who are you showing up to our house? I told them my story. They ended up feeling really sorry about it. And so they went to her and came back to me. And they're like, well, she's really down financially. Maybe if you offered to help her out, maybe she would agree to see you. And so I was like, well, maybe I'd be open to it if she called.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I just had a son. She had 2 grandkids at the time, and
Did you express that at all?
yes, yeah,
Yes.
And she called me the first time, and she was like, "Well, I don't know who your father is, and I don't know why you're calling me, and I'm not going to tell you anything." And then after this couple that she was staying with talked to her, she called me back and said, "Well, they told me that you might be willing to help me out, with some bills, and if so, when would you be sending that?" And I'll never forget it. I was at the bank. And I just that's when I just that just gutted me, She called me and asked me for money.
Yeah.
And so I just hung up and I never talked to her ever again after that. I was stunned. I think to this day I'm still stunned.
I'm stunned right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, we have more ground to cover because your life is fascinating. And, people that I met that night that know, like this Olga and some other people there that know you and your partner, lovely people. And to see you that night, to see you today, beautiful watch. I love your sneakers, by the way, bro.
Thank you.
You're like a real man, bro. You look great.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
People misjudge those that have risen to high levels, thinking that, well, you probably were born into a rich, loving family, and you never had a bad break in your life, and you never got hurt, because people love to excuse their own mediocrity. People have to find excuses for their lot in life, rather than owning their own lack of discipline, their own lack of ambition, their own lack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I find that to be the case most of the time, and most of the content that I put out, and most of the conversations I have with people in the workplace, staff, coworkers, partners, really sometimes seems like it lacks empathy, but it's not that. It's really a lot of time due to what you're saying. I mean, it's actually been the opposite. And so when I look at things that, like you're trying to add value to people, you have trainings and mentorships and things of that nature for people.
Correct.
I don't think that you can help people if they don't have adverse experience, if they're not willing to accept it, if they don't. And so a lot of time it appears as a lack of empathy or as callousness or as being cold. But those things that those adverse events are really the foundation of everything that I have. And they were adverse up until probably 4 years ago, honestly.
Wow.
And so when I met you, it was on a high. 4 years before that, before COVID, I mean, there was times we were about to lose that business.
Well, I want to get into that because as a business guy, and I understand business, I spent my whole life in the capital markets, et cetera, buying, selling, trading, investing. I'm dying to get to that point in time because I can't imagine owning these sort of spas, clinics, whatever, places where people have to go, and all of a sudden everybody's in lockdown.
Yeah.
Everybody's wearing masks and no one's going out. I mean, it's like, what's worse, being a mall. I mean, owning a cruise ship maybe or a movie theater.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of stress. But so you said you grew up in the Washington, D.C. area.
Yes.
where, if you don't mind me asking?
So my dad was he was at George Washington University for
Okay.
the 8 years that we lived there.
Okay. An educator or?
Yes, yeah. Both of my parents. My mom was an elementary school teacher
Okay.
in Arlington. My dad was at the George Washington University as he was an assistant dean at the time at George Washington. So we were there until I was about 8 years old. I loved it, still love it today. But from there, we ended up moving to Mississippi.
Just threw me for a loop now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went to Mississippi, lived in Starkville, Mississippi for 3 years.
There's a university there?
Mississippi State University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my parents figured out like, hey, I don't know how long this is going to be good, because it's Mississippi.
I got it.
You can't put lipstick on it at the time, even today. And so we moved from there to Fort Lauderdale area.
Nice.
And he went to Florida Atlantic University. So I went to
FAU.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I ended up going
okay.
to Plantation High School here, and then I went back to DC after that to Howard. Stayed there for 6 years. So
You did?
Yeah.
Why Howard? I'm just curious.
I wasn't so as a student. I wasn't a great student.
You strike me though as a very educated person. I don't know how to explain.
Yeah, I don't know how.
You have a gentle side to you, which usually is from people that read.
Yeah, I love to read. That's how I knew about you. I'm the type of guy. At 18, 19 years old, I'm at the deli reading a newspaper every day. That's how I start my day. I read at least 33% of the newspaper every single day when I'm getting ready for class or during lunch. That was my thing. But I never did well in school and academics. I was interested in what I was interested in.
I got that.
And so I was supposed to go to the Marines.
Most successful winners could share that sentiment. I've heard that many times.
Yeah, I'm seeing that trend as well.
Yeah.
It's divergent thought, I think, and mindset is what really I see most people who are successful. Those are the traits that they have. No matter what, if you're going with the flow, going with the program, going with the system, it's typically molding you to be something for someone else.
Something less than. Yep, I get it.
Yeah,
I so get it.
So I got into Howard because someone helped me get into Howard. At a time where I don't think that this would be available now.
It's a great university. That's why I'm wondering what made you go back to. It's almost like you went back DC. To retrace your roots.
I went to tour all these different states, and and I was signed up for the Marines at the time because I had like a 1.9 GPA, and I went to this school, and I had a family friend that was there. And when she found out that I loved the school, and when I went to DC, it was the nostalgia. It reminded me of being a kid again, and it was just fast moving. Everybody there want to be somebody and do something, no matter if they're in the streets or they're in school. Everybody there wanted to do something.
It's a real spot.
It was about their business, and so I said I wanted to go there. My parents were like, "Well, we don't know how the hell you're going to get in there," and it was miraculous. It was just like meeting you, man. Like everything kind of lined up that way, and that's the story of my life. It's the weirdest things happen at the weirdest times. And so I got in. I had to get out of the Marines process. I was already scheduled to leave.
Already in the process?
Yeah, I was already scheduled to leave.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Sergeant Chris from the Marines in Plantation, Florida had me signed up. I'd already taken my testing. I already had my date, everything. And I had to get out of that to go to Howard. And it was probably the most exciting day of my life just because, I was not a good student. But I like to learn about things that to me are important. And DC to me was the place to do that. So
I graduated from the University of Maryland, College Park.
I heard that.
And my best friend went to AU.
Yeah.
And we used to throw parties at a place called the Pier, which was, we used to throw these big parties on Sunday night. We'd rent out this big club because nobody was going to clubs on Sunday night. And we would print up flyers and sell $15, $20. This is back in the 70s.
That's awesome.
Yeah. 1,000 kids would show up.
And what's funny about that is that's the exact same thing I was doing at Howard, and that's why it took me 6 years to get out of there. And that's why I met you at that party because we did that party for 10 years now. People are like, well, how are you putting this together? Like, that's what we were doing. That's the same thing we were doing in school.
100%.
It's just a little nicer. It's not,
it's more refined. 100%,
yes.
100%. But yeah, it was. It's a great party. Did a great job. But I get it. I'm a New York boy, and to me, New York gives me that vibrancy where everybody's. Everything's like in fast forward.
Yes.
I find Florida, everything is like in slow mo. I hate to say it, everybody, but nobody ever came to Florida to work harder.
I agree.
say that
As an employer, I agree. Actually, I think this
Very
is probably
hard to run a
the
business
worst.
and-
This is the worst employment environment I've experienced or heard of in the country. I think.
I agree.
And maybe California might be up there with it.
Oh,
I don't
it's
know.
gotta be.
But down here, it's very difficult. I don't know how people survive down here because what they want versus what they're willing to do does
Correct.
not match up. And it took me a few years to really figure that out and how to navigate in this market because it, down here is like smoke and mirrors. So it's like you see a guy, you're like, what does this guy do? He's at the pool all
He's got
day.
a watch. He's got a car.
Yeah.
There's no money.
And you're like at the office, like busting your ass. You're like,
Right.
this doesn't. And I haven't even the ultra wealthy guys I know, the guys centime millionaire guys, they're not at the pool
No.
in the middle of the day.
No. There's no way that you really do that.
Yeah, and so it took me a while to figure that out because at first I'm like, man, I'm doing something wrong. And then everybody that I thought I was comparing myself to, it came out like, no, here's the real deal.
The real deal.
Yeah.
I used to, go into the office early in the morning. I'm a news junkie, so newspapers. We used to have Quotrons back in the day when I was in the stock market. We didn't have computers then.
Right.
The Dow Jones, and you had Reuters, and then Mr. Bloomberg came along with the Bloomberg machines. I'll never forget. I owned several of those over the years because I had firms. And today, it's unbelievable. I pick up my iPhone usually around six in the morning, even though I have nothing to do really at 6 in the morning today.
Right.
But I got a million different news services. I know what all the headlines are, this, that, the other.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear about Mark Zuckerberg Meta? Yes. Did you hear about
Yeah.
Yes. You hear about It's amazing.
Yeah.
If you're into it, with the ability to get information.
Yeah, and I'm trying to debate right now whether it's a good thing or a bad thing because I am into it and I'm kind of too into it sometimes. And so I'm
That's
like,
what I've been told myself.
yes, I don't know if I'm processing all this, or where it's all going, but it's a lot of information, man, and it's in there. But I'm really intrigued by people who are doing things. I'm intrigued by where we're going. I like to stay ahead. I like to be the person who gets to the information first. I feel like that's the way you win in everything. It's who gets there first, who has the information first. So you're not a victim, so you're not getting trampled or whatever it is.
Yep.
And that's why I'm addicted to the information
Me too.
because you might just get one little thing that protects you tomorrow.
I call them $1 million nuggets. And I never wanted to be first, but I love having the information to process. I always talk about this with my sort of peers, right? I never want to be leading a trend, and I've never really been first, except when I decided to go public in London to bring a regulated American business public.
Right.
Nobody had ever done that, but some people had brought companies over to London, but they were unregulated companies, and I brought a regulated business over. I was the first guy ever to do that. But I saw the trend. I saw the value of foreign stock exchanges and all that. But typically, I like to be, if I can be in the top 5%, and I can, put a little lipstick on it, or the wheel works perfectly fine. I like to say I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but if I can, bring my version of the wheel or bring it somewhere where they don't have it, and I was able to invest in if I believe it was the first anti-aging clinic in Boca, in South Florida, in this area.
Awesome.
And we did that on Federal Highway by Palmetto.
Very cool.
Yeah, not too far from the hotel.
Who else was involved in that? Was there happened to be a guy named Clifford Carroll by any chance?
I think so.
Okay.
Here's what happened. Dr. Jeffrey Perlman, who worked for me for many years, I had a fund, and he was my sort of medical director because we did a lot of biotech stocks, life science, organic stuff and it was very important for me to have a doctor that had a vested interest. These were public companies, so I was able to give him stock and money and all these different things. And so he came to me. I got him certified and sent him up to Orlando, and we met the people, husband and wife, that started that whole thing where medical doctors became accredited. Eventually it became, now it's mainstream at this point. And it's what you do is amazing. So, testosterone, when we opened up, we were selling the testosterone, the 10 cc's, the Cypionate, $250 most people were paying.
Right.
Occasionally a guy would complain, whatever, we give it to him $200. I'll never forget when I saw the books for the first time. We were paying, This guy was complaining to me because they raised the price from like $11 to $18,
Right.
but we're charging $250.
Right.
That's a business, baby. You know what I mean? And then, I remember the fight over the growth hormone.
Right.
Because that became an issue. So now there's, something that stimulates you to create your own.
Now we have the peptides.
Yeah, there's peptides. I'm taking a number of peptides myself, but I have my feelings on some of these things. But we'll talk about that later. I want to get more about Carlton Washington because you're a special guy. You are not what you might seem to be. Someone's looking at you, fat watch. I'm sure you got a great car, 6'5", built, your shaved head, facial hair, tats on your big buys and tries, those big guns you have carried around. And but you're soft-spoken, you're educated, you're respectful and polite. You move with an alacrity that I admire.
Thank you.
And not every, maybe I'm guilty of this. I look at somebody and I'm already 67 and I've sort of got a lot of miles on me. And I look at people and quickly put them in sort of a box or a package.
Right.
And I used to joke. I said I'm very superficial. I'm really not, but part of me is, I guess. And the older I get, the less analytical, because the less I really care.
Right.
But the truth is, you're a fascinating dude, and I feel like you're on the come up in a big way, and you're humble enough to have shared a few minutes ago that we're catching you on the come up. 4 years ago, maybe you were a little different and used the word depressed before. How this came out, and I want to get to that because a lot of people are going through these sort of mental crises and depression and mental health. And I think our country has done a great disservice. There's a lot of very sick people in prison. And a lot of these people that I had the unfortunate opportunity to get to meet and get to know, they belong in hospitals. They don't belong in prison.
Right.
But we did away with our mental hospitals because, and that was done under Reagan, I believe, in the 80s because it was inconvenient to the big insurance companies which were writing big checks to the political candidates.
Right.
And they now just jam them into these federal prisons, and those are the new mental institutions.
Right.
And you see a lot of things happening, like in New York, where these crazies are just pushing people on the subway tracks.
Insane.
I mean, hurting people, stabbing people, all these crazy. There was a guy in Miami that was on a bridge one morning, and he bit somebody's face off. I mean, these people deserve to be in hospitals, not in jails, in hospitals. And there's a lot of thought about depression. There's a lot of talk. Is there such a thing as depression? I listen to guys like Andrew Tate.
Right.
He's like, there's no depression. We're just men. We're supposed to have shit lives, and we're supposed to have.
Right.
I love his take on it and this and that, but I do believe there's a medical condition. Just like a low test is a medical condition. Right. They used to say, "Oh, you're taking steroids. What are you doing?" I said, "No, I have." My body's not producing.
Right.
It says, "Oh, it's bullshit." I have friends that still think it's like either illegal or wrongful. I go, "Bro, I get it from a medical doctor because I have a blood test, and it's paid for by the insurance company because it's a condition. It's a medical condition. It's not because I want to have big guns. I want to look like Carlton Washington." But you understand that, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm super familiar with the prison industry. Won't go into that too much, but very familiar with what's going on there, and very familiar with depression just through the clinics that we own. I'm not a medical professional, but it is something that comes up all the time because in your needs assessment with someone, you're finding out what medications are they on. You're seeing all these people on these different medications, and then when you zoom out and you hear someone on the news or in the media give you the stats on how many people are on depression medications,
antidepressants and all.
You're talking about millions upon millions upon millions of people that are on these medications, and to a certain extent, you talk about Andrew Tate and people like that. Yeah, they're right. Like, we are meant to have issues. You do have to go through things. And so you have a number of problems that are happening right now, and they're keeping people on this hamster wheel of depression, sadness, which is the fact that everything that they have to grasp upon to typically deal with these things, which is either quiet time that we used to have in the 80s and before that, when you didn't know if disaster was happening. You didn't have disaster in your phone. You didn't have the email in your phone. You didn't know what the hell was going to happen next day at work. until
It's
you
true.
got there and you were afforded a decent night's sleep, right? And the food didn't change over until 93 when they started changing the ingredients and all these things. And so people are on a medical attack in terms of their hormones are depleted. Their
Right.
hormones are not like our fathers and grandfathers and uncles.
Interesting.
If I take a guy that comes in the office who's 80 years old, this is typically a better built human being than a 20-year-old today. They have natural hormone profiles that are higher, women and men. And so there's so many things that are going on environmentally, with work, with this technology, which I think is truly the most impactful thing that's happening right now, which is these smartphones. But when you combine all of these different things, all these other unnatural things, it leads people to feeling hopeless, especially if, going back to what we were talking about before, they never had some adversity to build a foundation upon.
Adversity is the touchstone to greatness. I mean,
Yeah.
without it,
Like, for instance, you have anti-bullying movements now. If I look back at my life, bullying was probably responsible for a lot of the greatness that I've had in my life. And I'm sad to say that, but yeah, I got the shit beat out of me a number of times at different points in my life. I won some fights too at different points in my life, and it really taught me boundaries. Also, it showed you what you're capable of. You rise to an occasion. And all these things are reference points for you to be like, I can do this. I can do more. I can show up today and persevere, right? Most people, the masses, do not possess these things anymore. A lot of it's been robbed from them and told to them that it's for their own good. When the rough night that you had, the time you got your ass whooped in the bar, the time you dealt with the high school bully, are reference points for you to go back and be like, I'm going to be okay. I can take what's next.
Right.
And with anything great, you got to be up for what's next. You got to be realistic about that. And I think most people aren't up for what's next. I think most people just want it to stop. They want their pain to stop. And there's too many pain points for them to even process now. So, because they're, in my opinion, and you can kind of see this in a macro way coming from your background, is there's industries involved in everything that we do. So you can be a victim of the marriage industry that sells diamonds and dresses and has bridal fairs and sells honeymoons and all
Valentine's
this type of
Day.
stuff. Right. Valentine's Day, all this, right?
Bro, that impacted me.
It's all bullshit, right? But it's so much pressure on people. They're like, I got to do these things, but they're thinking it's for them. But no, it's for us. We own the asset, right? Or, Petco and all these, like, and Chewy.com, they're like, yeah, you got to get 2 puppies, right? You can't afford 2 puppies, but get 2 puppies. You just got married, right? Oh,
it's
and
not
by
right
the way,
what you're doing to your one puppy all
right.
alone.
Right. And so now we got dogs and cats that we thought was the right thing to do. And they're like, oh, well, now you got married. Now you got your dog and your cat. Now we got to support Gerbers over here and all these and Infamil. They're like, well, now it's time to support us. So we need you to go ahead and have 2 babies. And it's like, you shouldn't have had babies. You shouldn't have any pets right now. You should be showing up, grinding at work, working on something. And all these things will come at the right time, but that's not what we're told. So everybody is commoditized, in my opinion.
I love that.
And that leads to depression. And I now have just gotten to the point where I just want to be the one that's making the commodities, because that's the only way to make it in today's world. Is you need to be on the receiving end of all of these commoditized behaviors, including depression. You're
going to be the player or you're going to be the house.
Exactly.
Right? So it's I made a decision a long time ago. It's time to be the house.
Exactly.
Because I was a big player. I was doing very well, but I recognized all the points he just made. And Tom Brady said it really great. I saw a post from him today. He says, I don't want to talk about my successes. He goes, I can't even really tell you, but I could tell you about my losses.
Right.
These things change my life. Pain is a touchstone to change.
Absolutely.
And without pain, if you're numb from your pain, you're never going to change. It's okay if you don't have money, you don't have work, it's okay to be friggin' depressed and to stay up all night. Because if you're not, you're never going to go get money and have success.
Right.
You can't have people tell you it's okay.
Right.
Not okay. That's why you have anxiety, all these different things, because it's the touchstone. You need that to elevate yourself to go to another level.
Yeah.
And you use the word grind. It's a famous word. People say to me, so what are you doing? I say, I'm grinding. Most people say, oh, it's a grind. Like it's a negative thing.
Right.
I'm proud that I'm grinding, because I know the only way to get to where I want to go is everything's a grind.
Right.
One of the things when people ask me, what is it like to be CEO of this big company, you're running a public company, I said, bro, all I do is every day I deal with problems.
Exactly.
every day deal with problem. When I just worked for the man, I had a lot of victories. I had a lot of fun, a lot of successes. Today, all I do is deal with the problems. I deal with the aftermath. But I want to get back now to your story. So you're at Howard University. Okay. And now you finish up. You stayed in Washington, or did you make the move back?
I stayed there for 6 years. I was not the greatest student, and I finally got to the point I was like, I got to figure out how to get out of here. My dad was like, stop all the partying, all the throwing parties. He looked at it as a distraction. It was actually my first small business.
Right.
But, I made a commitment to him. He was like, I just want you to get out of school. So I was like, fine. Plus, doing that kind of business in Washington, D.C. at the time, it was starting to get a little gray, and it's not safe, And so I just like, I'm just going to walk away from this. Got out of school, and if you're familiar with Washington, D.C. like you are.
I am.
There, where we went to school, there were blocks that literally warned you with signage, like, don't come here if you don't need to be here.
I get it.
You're under surveillance.
A block from the friggin' White House is a dangerous place. I get it.
It was a norm to see violence in D.C. It was a norm to see someone get shot. It was a norm for you to get robbed, come home, you just be like, damn, I just got robbed. Whatever. That's normal. And so all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get out of school. I'm going to get a job. I just got this degree from Howard. I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to buy a house and live here and do the American dream thing I'd seen everybody do in the 90s.
Okay.
And this was in 04 and 03, 04. And I walked.
You're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm walking around. I'm going to look at listings. And this is in, again, 03, 04. The homes in the worst neighborhood in D.C., 600, 700,000.
It's expensive because you have people from all over the world there.
In the early 2000s. But these are places where you're not supposed to be.
I understand.
But I'm comfortable living there, so I'm like, okay, cool. So I couldn't afford anything. I ended up living in a room in Southeast Washington, D.C., off of Martin Luther King and Bowen Road, the worst area in D.C. No, living in a one-room where the woman who owned it reminded me that that's your room. The living room's not yours. The kitchen's not yours. You live in the room. And so I just got to a point where I was like, man, this is just not going the way I thought. And I was like, let me try to find some opportunity. And at the time, Atlanta was that place in terms of like everybody I knew was going to Atlanta was doing well.
Baby. Yes. Buckhead. I mean, yeah.
So I literally threw away all my stuff in the dumpster, and I went down there. My parents had moved there, and I stayed with them for 2 weeks.
Where were they in Atlanta?
They were right outside Atlanta in the Mableton area.
Okay.
And back to the newspaper, my parents were always like, you can't stay here. Like, that was already known. So 2 weeks, didn't even ask. Newspaper found a place that was like, we're hiring sign-on bonus at Nissan. Come sell cars.
Okay.
So I was like, I showed up. I was like, they're like, you got the job. I was like, what do I do? They're like, go sell cars. Right. I was like, well, what do you mean? They're like, go sell cars. That was the training.
I like it.
So, and that was that. And so that's the next.
Talk to the salesman, and they'll tell you what to do.
They didn't even do that. They're like, you see that couple right there? Go ask them if they want the keys.
I love it.
That was it. And so I just started doing that, and that was a burnout. We worked 6 to 7 days a week.
Right.
All the guys around me, I didn't really see where I wanted to be with them. Everybody's just sitting around, depressed, smoking cigarettes, and I'm running up to all the clients.
I understand.
So I'd run, and that was like my form of getting exercise because I'm there all the time, and so I had success there. But I'm like, these guys are working 7 days a week, and so
they're not really working; they're showing up.
Yeah, showing up. Yeah.
They don't really work. So you're selling cars. You're at Nissan.
Yep.
You're in Atlanta.
Yep.
What's going on?
So I shared an apartment with a good friend from high school. We're both sleeping on the floor, mattress, mattress, little TV on the boxes.
I love it.
Which honestly, people talk about that. A lot of guys kind of start off like that, and that's like one of the best times. It didn't inhibit me at all. I had the time of my life.
I get that. I understand 100%.
Kitchen's clean. We just eat, we work, and party. And but it got to be a point. I'm like, look, again, I got ambition. This is not for me.
Like, where's it going? That's
right.
That
it's not going anywhere.
You have fun. You make the most of it.
Yeah.
Right? That's your personality.
And so finally, somebody I know told me that Wells Fargo was looking for people to basically work in loan processing or loan sales at the time. And I had no experience in that, but I was like, hey, sounds better than what I'm doing right now. I was like, is it 5 days a week? They were like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm sold. So basically I go over to Wells Fargo. It's an arm of Wells Fargo that turned out to be infamous at the time. And so it's a boiler room.
Yeah.
And we're selling, subprime mortgages with like 10 points on them, like 7% interest rate, and just closing like nonstop, $100 a day, calling in a boiler room, no walls, no cubicles. We're all in there, just a bunch of 20-year-olds just on the phones.
I love it,
And so it's a grind, but what I didn't know at the time, it was just really deepening my financial literacy. It was really because I'm
learning.
Yeah, all the time.
Being exposed to all this.
And I'm solving all these problems for these people. But at the same time, I'm young, didn't know it, which is why they were recruiting guys like us.
Correct.
We didn't know what we were selling. So we pretty much were blowing out neighborhoods in Atlanta because on the front end, we were saving people all this money. We were consolidating, debt for them or whatever.
Right.
But they really didn't have a long-term solution to pay for it. And I think Wells Fargo probably knew that at the time.
Of course they knew it. This is before the 08, 09.
Yeah, this is 04, 05. And so we're going hard in there.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that they were doing is they were training on sales so well and on financial literacy and calculation and whatnot that they had created a whole group of young men that had these skills that were very attractive to Wachovia Bank at the time.
Yep, I got it.
And so Wachovia started taking all of us over there and gave us, like true banker roles with lending, not only lending, but also investment licenses, insurance licenses, all within a professional environment, like real banking. And so
I love it.
We all went over there, and that's when it really started learning.
Did you get a Series 7 or just a Series 7? Okay, the whole thing then.
Everything, 6, 63, 7, everything. So you come to our desk, we can do anything for you. And so that's really where I was getting my feet wet in investments. Again, later on in life, this is why I felt bad about it because, Wachovia is pushing their evergreen funds at the time.
Oh, yeah.
They don't even exist anymore. I'm really good at what I do. So I'm taking people's funds. I'm putting them over here.
I get it.
We're doing loans nonstop. We figured out the system behind the scenes. And so we're just crushing it. And then I ended up kind of bank hopping from there. So
you're making some money.
Yeah, making some money, more money than I had before.
Right.
Decent bonuses, but
You're
biggest thing was
the floor anymore.
No, not anymore.
You got a nice TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're living in a real house.
Bought my second home at the time. Bought my first home within less than a year moving to Atlanta. Bought my second one. Kept that one as a rental. Ended up getting engaged to my wife, and things are on the up and up. And now I'm hopping.
Tell us about
banks.
the wife real quick. Now you met her in Atlanta?
No, I met my wife in high school. Yeah.
In high school?
Yeah, when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're still together?
We're still together. Now, I always got to tell people, I got to put a disclosure, this wasn't a straight line.
Nothing's a straight
I'm not
line
I'm not a saint or an angel, and she knows that, and our relationship has kind of, gone back and forth. But at that time, again, I kind of also had enough of the streets, in terms of just, I got to the point like that. If I kept on doing what I was doing in Atlanta as a single person or in DC as a single person, there's no way I'd make anything of myself or even be alive. Yeah.
She's like an anchor. She
would always been an anchor. And
a North Star, even a compass,
Yes, and we were great friends throughout everything. We always stayed in touch, and she's really she was the only person that could kind of wrangle me like that.
And really knows you probably. Really knows you.
Yeah.
She
Absolutely.
knows where you came from.
Absolutely, yeah.
The 16-year-old Carlton.
The good, bad, and the ugly, yeah.
Who came up with your name? I'm just curious.
I think my dad.
When you got adopted?
Yeah. My name at birth was Kyle.
Really?
Yeah. And the original last name was Mangan.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because Carlton Washington's like a big name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was my dad.
It's like a big name. It's a serious name. It's like he foresaw, I think, the future in you.
Yeah, I don't know where you got it from. The only thing I can think of at the time was Carlton cigarettes. So
I used to smoke Carlton.
Yeah,
I used to smoke Carlton. So believe it or not, isn't that interesting? So you're with this woman. You know her since you're 16.
Yeah.
Okay, and you stay close. You're on and off again over a lot of geography, right?
Yeah,
you were making your moves. You're trying to grow,
Yeah.
and she's from Washington D.C.
No, she's
area?
from Florida. She was from Florida. We met here. She went to St. Thomas High School here.
St. Thomas, okay.
She's an athlete. Ended up going to Wake Forest. So she went from Florida to North Carolina, and then she went from North Carolina to Philadelphia, where she was playing soccer professionally. And so she was moving around, and I was doing my thing. Yeah, she was serious, and I think that's why we kind of stayed together because I told her, I always had admiration for her, which again, it's like not just with my spouse, it's just with people in general. Like I admired what she was doing, and I like to get to know people who who have something going on. You know,
Of course,
I felt like I was
bro.
pacing her.
Of course, it's so important to
Yeah.
to be with people that you admire, look up to. You respect is a great
Yeah.
word, right? You
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, she definitely demanded a lot of respect.
Yeah,
So.
I'm familiar with all that. That's interesting. So now you're in Atlanta. You buy a second home,
Yeah.
and you get married.
We get engaged.
Engaged.
Get
okay.
engaged.
Very respectable.
Second home, and then during
Was she
that time,
was she living with you this time?
Yes,
So
yeah.
sometime after the Nissan days,
yeah,
sometime during the wild COVID days.
yes, yeah.
Now
She
you
was
become a serious young man. You wear a suit, right?
suit every day.
Yeah.
Every day, which is why I don't like to wear them anymore.
I don't blame you.
I hated them. Hot Atlanta in a suit.
Atlanta.
But yeah, so she came up and we're living together. She's working, I'm working, and then I moved into a better role at BB&T Bank, which is now no longer doesn't exist. But
Truist now. Right?
now Truist,
Yeah, I'm a BB&T guy.
and it ended
I
up.
was. Made a lot of money.
That
on
was a
stock.
great bank.
Great
at the time.
bank.
Yeah,
Great
it was
bank.
probably the greatest bank at that time. Great leadership.
I agree. Great stock, by the way.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money in that stock.
But ended up getting a third home at that time. Super nice house. Kept those two, and that's when I was really rocking and rolling. And that takes us into
all in Georgia. Or,
all in Georgia.
Okay.
Rocking and rolling. I'm not only do I have those, I ended up buying like 21 other homes at the time. I'm fixing them up. I'm renting some out. Everything's going great, and now that takes us into
Oh
08.
God, this is before.
Yeah.
You had 21 homes going
Yeah.
to all mortgage leverage, right?
Most of them, yeah. I had some free and clear, some leverage.
Right.
I mean, I was just about to approach $1 million in access in terms of
In equity.
in
Real equity.
terms of accessible equity lines.
got you.
Everything. I got everything going here.
You're rolling.
And then
You're rolling. You're making moves.
yeah. And then boom, I'm in my office. I'm running an office for BB&T, and I'm seeing my contractors, all my high net worth clients coming in there, coming out, clearing out their safe deposit boxes, people crying in my lobby. My lending authorities getting chopped. We're wondering what the hell is going on here. And then my wife gets terminated from her role. I get terminated from my role at the same time. I had funds that I had put in the market for emergency rainy day. I go to get a margarita at a Mexican restaurant, and then I watch 50% of that disappear while I'm having my margarita at lunch.
Expensive margarita.
And, yeah.
I get it.
And everything just starts crashing, and that leads to bankruptcy. So,
Did you actually file?
yeah, that's why
7 or 11?
at
Personal,
first
7.
13.
Oh, 13. Okay.
Then I wasn't educated, and so I'm like, what the hell is this? So now I'm on this payment plan.
Oh,
I can't afford shit. I
Right.
can't get credit. I can't do anything.
Right.
And I didn't know about Chapter 7. They were like, you're not going to
You
qualify
should have
for
went for
Chapter
7.
7.
Yeah.
So I go back. It's so
Or
bad.
you should
in
have had
Atlanta
those
at the time.
homes in an entity, and then you could have went 11 and restructured, whatever.
Yeah. And so,
I get
it was
it.
so bad that I went back to my attorney. I was like, let's go for a 7 and see what happens. And we go back for the 7. The courts are full. There's a line out the door.
Jam
for
packed.
bankruptcy.
I can't imagine.
So he slid through a 7 for me.
Yeah, that's good.
And
they were just sign. Just so you know, according to the United States government, I'm responsible for the crash of 0809. I just want you to know. They said to the jury, "We, your government, this is the man that caused the 0809 crash." And the judge
wild.
didn't find that prejudicial at all.
Oh, my
But
God.
whenever my lawyer tried to say something nice
No,
or
I
introduced
can-
evidence supporting my position, that's too prejudicial.
I can assure you it wasn't you.
Well, they swore on this is, under penalty of perjury, on a stack of Bibles, the United States of America. It's stunning to me how the government might actually have lied. Isn't that stunning?
Well, it's definitely a lie because during that time, I was going through depression, going through my bankruptcy. I couldn't go anywhere. Everything was collapsing. I would say half the city of Atlanta was out of work. Atlanta usually has traffic. There was no traffic for a couple of years on 285, 75, 85. It was none.
Wow.
Only traffic was in the northwestern quadrant by Buckhead, where the only last people who were employed gainfully were.
With the judges and the lawyers.
Exactly. And
They were carving up the remains of everybody.
I spent time when I went back to school to get an MBA because there was nothing else I could do. And I did research on this for my projects. And what I found is that all of these banks were culpable. They were all basically bankrupt themselves. They were insolvent.
Scamming, bro.
Yeah.
The whole system was. I know my ex-wife, best friend hates this, but tits up.
Yeah.
The whole system was under.
And
the
they
whole
knew
thing
it.
was all fraud. The government knew it. They and they just got bailed out.
Yeah.
And the same guys are doing the same thing today. I'm sorry to tell everybody. And there's going to be a reckoning. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big reckoning.
And that's another reason for the grind, because a lot of people have short memories, and I can't get – it was so brutally painful that I can't get it out of my mind. And so now I see people operating the same way as they were before.
It's worse now even.
And the bubbles in the different sectors are bigger.
Crypto.
Way bigger than they were before.
Stock market. I see it as like, listen, I've been through it 87. In 90, it got so bad I actually got sober. That's how bad. I love drugs and alcohol, and it was just so bad I couldn't. It was either do my taxes and face my shit, or just go away. I chose to go away and get well, and then 2000, the end of the world, part one.
Yeah.
Which was the .com crash, Enron, WorldCom, zero fraud. Lucent Technologies, 84 to 0. That was an A+ rated as it was going to 0. It's everything's really sketchy, schemy, but you get older, you live, you learn. If you learn, some people don't learn. You got to be smart. You got to realize that there's opportunities coming and position yourself.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people think the way I move is crazy, because I'm very, very more of a prepper. Not like a just doomsday prepper, but in terms of like the way I live my life is I like to be hedged against these things.
Careful.
I like to have free and clear home. I like to make sure that, I'm getting ready for that, because everybody seems to have forgotten. And I don't understand how. I mean, it was so painful.
That's why, because we have built-in forgetters. Pain is very uncomfortable for the normal person.
I'll never forget.
I know, and this whole new generation is they're being led to slaughter. I hate to say it like that, but there's a lot of sheep being led to slaughter right now.
Yeah.
So now, 08, 09, you go back, you get an MBA.
Yeah.
What was the point? Just because you had nothing else to do, really? There's no one hiring, right? There's no jobs.
I couldn't get a job. Couldn't keep a job. Couldn't get a job.
And now you're married.
And I'm married.
No kids yet.
I had not at the time. I had my daughter. I had my daughter when I was in school in D.C.
Okay.
My 21st birthday present. I had a daughter, and so I had my
for you.
daughter, but I did not have my son yet. And so my daughter was living in New York at the time. I'm living in Atlanta. We moved into a $20,000 home the only home I was able to keep, and which is why I have the shirt Bankrupt on Bankhead. Anybody that knows where Bankhead Courts is in Atlanta, I lived around the corner from the projects in Atlanta, and she agreed to move in there with me to basically restart our lives.
Your wife?
So, yeah.
And your daughter?
No, just my wife.
Okay, the daughter was in
New York. Yeah.
What was she doing in New York?
Her mom was at NYPD in New York. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So now what happens?
So we go to school, do the MBA program. Part of it was international, so it got me over to Romania and to see some other things I hadn't seen before. And there was like a program that we did internationally with them. I learned a lot about the executive outlook on every area of business, which was deeper than the financial literacy I had before. So this program didn't focus on just like, or here, there's a whole semester on accounting or whatever. It was like how to run businesses, from the macro level and understand what's going on. And so after that, I realized like, hey, if I want to do what I want to do and get to where I need to be, I need to start some kind of business. And so I started a business while I was in the program doing insurance and real estate. And after I got out of school, that's what I did. And so I had an insurance and real estate agency, doing well, building the business, and then I have my son. So that freaked me out because now I've still got that trauma of what happened before.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm never going to like put my kids out on the street like the way that this happened to us before. And so I went and got a job because I was too scared to keep the business open. Even though I was building, I was too scared. And I always tell people if I kept that business, I would not be working today at all. I would have been retired years ago from residuals.
I get that.
But I ended up going to Merrill Lynch and taking a job with them.
Okay. You still registered?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a stockbroker?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Where was that office? Was that in Atlanta?
In Alpharetta, Georgia.
Alpharetta,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I have friends in Alpharetta. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, so did that for a while. And again, I think I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I don't work well with rules and things of that nature. So I just kind of got tired of it. And I left them to go work for a private equity company called Colony Capital. I was a guy, Tom Barrick, at the time, who basically started where we are now, these REITs that everyone's complaining about.
Yep.
I was the first person into that in Georgia. So I had the whole state of Georgia.
Wow.
We were buying like $20 million worth of real estate every single month.
Wow.
On the courthouse steps, and getting that through development, rented out, and then onto the market. Again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time. We basically have created what you see today, which is what BlackRock and all these companies have, all these single family home holdings. That's what I was doing.
I love it. And they haven't stopped.
No.
They haven't stopped.
No. So did that until just couldn't take it anymore. And my wife ended up getting opportunity. And she's like, hey, look, I have an opportunity with my company. Would you mind moving to Florida, back where we came from with my mom? And I was like, if they give you all these things, it was pie in the sky. Didn't think that they would agree.
Right.
She comes home, they've agreed. So
You're
now
like, damn.
I'm kicking and screaming and have to move back down here. And I couldn't find a job.
It's tough here in Florida.
Very tough.
Get a real job.
A lot of discrimination too, and it's very, very cliquey down here in terms of it's who you know. No one wanted to give me a job. I qualified through the roof. And so finally I took a job with SunTrust, took a big step back in my career, ended up with a horrible leader here in Boca Raton. And I'm servicing guys my age that are coming up every day and, Bentleys and Lamborghinis and taking out massive cash withdrawals and giving me tips. And I'm like, I can't believe this is my life.
Right.
And so that's when I decided to start the business, because I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm in this suit. It's 100 degrees, humidity, and I'm watching these guys come up, and they're like...
I was one of those guys probably, but, never know.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And I just couldn't take it anymore.
I get it 100%. So you're here in Boca or Fort Lauderdale?
I'm working in Boca, and I'm living in Coconut Creek.
Coconut Creek,
yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking at you, and were you always training? Was that
always training?
Always going to the gym?
When I came here, I needed to give up alcohol, and I'm doing stuff I'm not supposed to be doing, and so I told my wife, I was like, I'm going to give up everything. I'm going to get focused. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. That's how I met my partner, because I came here looking for whoever could help me get into the best shape. Mm-hmm. I met him through some introductions.
What's his name again?
His name was Dennis Dugalu.
Right, he has a funny last name. I remember that.
Turkish.
Yeah, you introduced me to him,
Yeah.
and he's a lovely guy, very fit.
Yeah.
Beautiful wife, lovely people. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, sometimes you can really measure a guy to some extent with the people that he associates with. And,
Yeah.
And I was really, it was really great to meet him. Also, like you, humble, gracious.
Well, we were both in a situation. I didn't know this guy from anything.
Right.
I just had hired him to help me get in shape.
Right.
And it got to the point I just called him up one day. I was like, look, dude, thinking about doing this. Would you do this with me? The guy that was one of the guys that was coming doing the deposits with me all the time and helping me out, he kind of coached me on this. And he's like, if you're going to do this business, you need to start with 50 people that are going to support you. If you don't have that, he's like, it's going to be really rough for you. I was like, well, I don't know anybody down here.
Right.
He was like, well, you need to find somebody. So I just called him up. I was like, hey, this guy I know knows 50 people interested in health and wellness. Would you do the business? He's like, okay.
Who, Dennis?
Yeah, Dennis.
Oh,
yeah.
he knew 50 people from being down here training and the gyms and all that.
So he just said, okay. Next thing you know, 2 months later, we're starting a business together.
And where did you? So you brainstormed, right?
Yeah.
You had to make a plan.
Yeah.
And that was probably done at somebody's kitchen table or dining room table.
Spent all the time at the bank that they were paying me, working on my business.
I love it.
Interviewing the best clients that I had, the top clients. I just sat there and just took notes. I would ask them, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they just thought I was giving really good customer service and just really interested. I'm just picking their brain, and putting this all into a plan the whole time. And so
I hope you're all listening to this, because this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And
I tell this to people all the time. I don't have any morals or ethics when it comes to corporate, like large corporations like that, in terms of like their time versus mine. I tell people all the time, get paid on their time. You're a number to these people. They do not care about you. So like, I'm going to use my time, for my advantage.
Your time has value.
Exactly.
To you.
And that's how you need to look at it. And so I took they paid me.
Yep.
Treated me like
your
shit.
job, but
I'm still making them money.
Right.
Way more money than I'm getting paid.
I got it.
But I didn't put their needs before mine. I put my needs before theirs. And so I spent every waking moment in that suit and in that bank. And then after they closed, working on a plan, and using their clients, motivation stories and experience to help me build something that's solid. And so I tell people that all the time. Like, people are like, I don't have time. Make the time. Make the time, because they're going to make the time in their priority and their interests. And so again, it's back to, you're going to be getting screwed or, the opposite.
He wanted to be the screw.
Exactly.
So here's the thing. So you didn't just start opening up a fancy spot, right? So you had limited capital, probably.
We had $70,000 that I got. My portion came from a settlement from Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
That I didn't even know existed. One of my old buddies that was an advisor was like, "Did you get the little card in the mail that said that Merrill Lynch is getting sued?" I was like, "No." They were like, "Make sure you fill that out." So next thing you know, like I'm like, "Is this for real?" They sent me a check for like $33,000 in the mail.
Beautiful.
I didn't even know it was coming. So
I'm going to go check my mailbox.
Yeah.
Maybe I got lucky today.
So I had that, and my partner, I ended up getting him some credit cards.
Okay.
At the time we ran it through PayPal, and like that was what we had. So the business usually costs $750,000 to $1 million now to start.
The real
The real
location.
one. Yeah, we did it with $70K for everything.
Where'd you get your first place?
Right here in Boca Town Center.
Oh, Town Center Mall, really?
That place hadn't been remodeled. It was a shitty center over there by Town Center. I think
What year was this now?
This was in 2014. I think that place had gone into foreclosure. So a really savvy guy had just bought it and was just looking to fill it up. So it was the only place we could afford.
I got you.
And
you meant the rent? What was the rent initially?
The rent was like $4,000, I think, at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is today.
I forgot. But yeah,
That's
4,000.
a good thing.
So it really helped. And we just had to grind in there and
And
find
who was you actually? Were you going to the location every day and working?
Oh my! I lived there.
Right.
I lived
And
there.
what were you? People were walking, and what were you offering? Like, what was the deal?
Same services we offer now. We had an aesthetic side, we call your look your best side, and we had a wellness side, which is the feel your best side. So we would service people from Botox, skincare, medical grade aesthetics, to testosterone, growth hormone peptides, blood work, or anything in between, and really try to merge those patients and to get a holistic approach. And we just kind of built it as we went. The place that you see now is nothing like the plain place that we had initially.
It's pretty now.
Yeah.
It's look your best side and feel your best side.
Exactly.
I love that. I never heard that before. That's
we try to make it simple for people and try to educate people on whichever side they're not doing their best at.
And how's business today at the Town Center Mall?
It's great. It's great. Every year we've grown. We went from that to another corporate store to another corporate store. So it was 3 corporate stores. And then we went into franchising. And so the franchising part, we kind of toiled through that. We just launched during COVID, but we took the time to really just focus on our business and went from the 3 stores to, I believe we have 60 plus stores open right now. And we open 1 to 2 every single month in 17 states. So
7. I was impressed by that. 7. You must have some smart franchising guy.
Yeah, we partner with a great group, a group called the Rep'em Group. And with their skill set in franchising and our skill set and love for what we did in Forever Young in the medical space, it was just a really great combination for growth. And we really believe in what we do. I'm now a franchisee of my business, so I'm opening a franchise in Atlanta.
Oh, so that's what's happening in Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to the business. I'm franchising from myself. I'm paying a royalty to a business that we own, and I'm kind of getting in there with our franchisees, just because I love the business and I want to see I want to see it from their lens and make sure that it is everything that it's supposed to be. Not to mention, I just can't live without these services as well. So
I understand. You're a client. You're not just an owner.
Yeah,
and it's a great story, bro. And I love it, having met, having been to that party and seeing you, and it's having a chance to talk to people that interact with you and the company.
Yeah.
So it gave me a little bit of a purview, so to speak, even though it's from like 30,000 feet.
Right.
But now I'm getting into the good stuff. And so you and Dennis went into this, so you don't know what's going on. And then what happens with COVID? I mean, who was at the Town Center Mall?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. We were actually going to get acquired at the time. We were in Atlanta having private equity meetings.
Right.
And we're all just like, the news is in the background. Trump's like, don't worry, it's not coming here.
Right.
And so we're up there and we're like, this is some bullshit,
right.
Whatever. By the time we're up there having drinks, shaking hands, thinking that we're about to have a
right.
deal. By the time it's time for us to go to airport, they're like, you need to get on your flight early because they're starting to shut down the airports. And by the time we get to the airport in Atlanta, people are wearing masks. Like, this is like something we've never seen before.
Right.
And we're just looking at each other like, is this really happening? Like right now? Right. And by the time we get back home to Florida, there's a governor's order to shut your business down. And with stipulations. And we're like, there's no way this is happening. We just got through all of this shit.
The road show with
We
all the
almost
money,
went-
they're dangling carrots for
everything.
you guys, taking you to clubs. And
Yeah, and we had
restaurants.
persevered through all of this stuff to get there, and now we're like, is this really happening? So we went from being on this high to being in damage control mode. And I will tell people again, it goes back to what I was saying before: bullying, tragedy, bankruptcies, being broke, being in debt, figuring things out. It equipped us and armed us with what we needed to attack it. And
Survival mechanisms.
Yes.
These are survival mechanisms.
So I know this for a fact. Most business owners, I think at that time, probably would have, cried, been defeated, started infighting, blaming all this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, finger pointing. I told
Our
you we should
team
have
went
done.
to work. We went to work.
How many employees did you have at that time?
I think we had like 28, 29. We didn't lose one employee. We put everybody on a stipend. We did everything we could to
The store was
keep
closed?
the stores. We were able to open once per week to see wellness patients. It was a loophole. We couldn't touch any aesthetic patients. And so we actually were able to manipulate the business into a way where we were still profitable on the P&L, and keeping our staff on stipends and doing our best to make sure they were getting government benefits and stuff like that were available until we had the green light. And it was a blessing in disguise because we were able to optimize our business practices. We were able to really build trust with our clients, educate our clients throughout the whole process.
With the landlords, everything. I mean,
everything.
There's a lot of stuff that went on that people don't know.
Everybody worked with us. We had to work out a deal with everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And
I can imagine.
When we got the green light, the governor was like, open back up. We had a 500-person waiting list for aesthetics alone, and then this new focus on aesthetics from the Zoom calls, and on wellness of people who didn't want to get sick and who were like, I'm not, they had profound moments. And so the business just catapulted from there. We were able to handhold our franchisees that had just opened their stores through that. Like, imagine you just opened your business.
I can't even.
They're still open. We stayed open. We turned a profit that year. The business grew, and we started selling franchises like gangbusters.
Right. Now, let me ask you something. I'm a client, let's say, of your town center mall, and I guess I see a doctor once in a while, right? Because I get prescriptions, right?
Right. We have a medical director, medical doctor.
They send the prescriptions to my home, right?
Yes.
Is that how it works? From a major pharmaceutical company.
Right.
That's how I did it, right?
Exactly.
So I used to get on dry ice, used to send me all the different things.
Absolutely.
So now COVID hits and you close down. You're forced to close. The mall's closed. Who knows what the hell? I'm still getting my prescriptions.
Yep.
The doctor was on top of things.
Pharmacy. The doctor stayed with us. The doctor's been excellent. Dr. Abden Borges. Everybody locked in, and everybody. I think we just built a good team, good trust and authority with everybody. We were transparent. We told everybody what was happening. Every day we gave updates to not only clients, staff, education, but also just to each other to make sure, because we were just, everything was about making it one more day, one more one more week.
Survivor mentality.
Right. And nobody freak out.
Right.
Just
because
do
you
whatever you got
communicate.
to do. Right.
See, in the absence of communication, people go wild. I always talk about that. They ask me, what's the most important thing you do in business? Communicate.
Right.
Communicate. We had a situation yesterday. Guys don't communicate with each other. It's a big problem. You know, I mean, what the hell does it take to make a phone call?
Right.
Takes 30 seconds. Hello, how are you? Boom, 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 done.
Yeah.
Text today. DM. I mean, there's no reason not to be able to get in touch with somebody today. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's the craziest thing I ever heard. And then people say, well, I didn't know how to get in touch with you. I'm like, really? I'm like, the easiest guy in the world is send me a carrier pigeon.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? In the old days, they would tie shit to the pigeons.
I noticed guys from your generation, though, are way better at follow-up and getting back than the younger generations. Mine's okay, but the younger one's the worst. Just the worst.
I get that.
You know,
I call people on the phone, and even people in your generation, and they're like, what's wrong? What do you mean, what's wrong? I'm just calling you. Why'd you call? I go, because I just want to say, hey.
Right.
I wish everybody a Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I call people. I make 100 calls. People that are in my life, people that I haven't seen or spoken to in a long time, but I care about, whatever. I use the holidays as sort of because I'm busy. We're all busy, right? We're all like, even a successful guy like yourself, right, who's in it on the come up. You're busy. You can't, you got kids, you got a wife, you got things happening at schools and all a million issues, right? You come home, you have all your business issues, you think you're on top of it, and then the wife sit down, you got 18 other issues to deal with now.
Definitely.
And so I use the holidays as a break point to, it was the day of Christmas Eve. So my ex says to me, she says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to start. I want to call some people. She goes, it's 10 in the morning. I make 100 calls or so,
Right.
literally. And then I send, I don't know how many umpteen now with texting, But, I call people up and like, what's the matter? Is everything okay? Something happened? Like, people get panicked. Like, why are you calling? Like, it's the new generation. My kids, Dad, we don't call Dad. I said, what do? You go, we text. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, and I kind of feel bad about that because I succumbed to it a little bit because when I came to Florida, my partner was a little bit younger than me, and he was more of a texter, and I was like, I call.
Right.
And
Is everything okay?
Yeah, and I kind of started succumbing to that a little bit, and I think I feel bad though for people younger than me because I can go either way. I can do it, and I do it sometimes.
I use both.
But they, I have a 24-year-old daughter, and I'm around her generation a lot, and the communication
terrible.
Is it's pretty poor.
It's like they forgot how to communicate, I think.
In their generation, yeah. And then I think the COVID thing stunned them even more. And
sure.
Their style is just totally different from ours. And I tell people this all the time. It's one thing to get older, it's been happening since the dawn of time. We
Correct.
talk about the younger people, the younger generation, all that.
Always.
But I think about, I think older people sometimes looked at my generation with a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy. Because the generation is always supposed to be getting better.
Yeah.
And I tell people now, I don't think when older people are harsh on this new generation that they're doing it and having any envy or wanting. I don't think they have anything that we want. I don't think that they're getting the experiences and the life and all of the things that you enjoyed. I think that they don't get those things. I don't think they have the opportunity for them. I think that's been taken from them.
It's I believe the advent of technology is always good. It's always a plus. I do. I'm that kind of guy. But I believe that, of course, there's always some loss. There's always some minus in everything, But I always weigh up both sides, and I'll always go with the plus side. I don't think that it's social. People say, "Oh, social media is so terrible." I don't think it's a cell phone is so terrible. Oh, if they had cell phones in my day or social media, none of us would be okay. we'd have adapted. We'd be different. Yeah, things would be different. But the ability to get all this information on you,
Yeah,
in a matter of one day, it's crazy.
very.
To Google, boom, 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 and there are so many great things about it. But it is funny because, I have my youngest daughter. She's just now 21, and when she was growing up a little bit, I would be like, she'd tell me about a guy in a class, right? And she's talking to him, but they don't actually ever talk.
Right.
They're on Snapchat or
Right.
they're texting, and it's like, well, did you ever spend any time with him? Dad, we don't do that.
Right.
I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know how things evolve anymore. How the young socialize and do all these different things. They'll figure it out, right?
I don't know. Maybe
You still have to be close together to procreate, right?
they're not really doing that. I mean, they're different. They're really different.
Really different.
It's something about the ones in their 20s now. Again, I work with them. Like you were talking about before at the party, like those ambassadors and stuff.
Yeah.
I work with them in the field. And I talk to them. I love shooting the shit with people,
Right,
and
right.
I'm curious. And I ask about their lives, and I'm never just like, wow, like that. I would really. I feel like I'm missing out. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I would rather live my life having that anonymous fun that we got to have.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Believe me.
Like that was fun.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
I guess.
And they don't have that.
Where are you? Well, I'm out.
Yeah.
No one knew where I was.
Exactly.
We had one phone at my house when I was growing up. You had to actually call people, and we could find you, and nobody knew where you were. Now, if 6 people have I'm going to find wherever my iPhone is. They know I'm there.
That's crazy to me.
It's crazy.
And I know women who and I know couples that track each other on this stuff. I couldn't submit to that. There's no way I could let somebody track me voluntarily in a relationship. I just can't do it.
I'm not even in a relationship, and I have people tracking me. Just so you all know.
Right.
I mean, we're literally. I mean, that's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
They're going to keep an eye on Ross. I must offer something, right? It's a crazy story. So, people that I speak to that like to prep me for these kind of things, they say, what drives this guy? I think we got a good idea looking into you today, but what does drive you? I'm trying to think, because it seems to me you just whatever it is, you seem to have it. right? You've had throughout the course of your life, this journey that we've taken so far. You want more for your life. You're somebody that wants more. I used to say, I was in the program AA. I got sober, and all this. People say, "What's your drug of choice?" Well, I was like, cocaine, it was weed. My drug of choice is more.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. I like more women. I like more cars. I like more watches. I went through a sneaker phase. I want more. I want to put out more content.
Right.
But more. What is Carlton Washington's thing? Like, talk about you as a person now.
I just think it's just growth mindset. And you hear that a lot, but I just feel like if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not moving, you're spoiling, you're stagnant. I tell my kid this all the time. I have a chip on my shoulder.
Love it.
I'm not embarrassed by it. I've always wanted to be better and prove to myself. And I don't know where I got that from, but I always feel like I want to put up some numbers.
I love it.
Whatever it is, I want to put up numbers. And at the end of the day, I want to push the boundaries of myself, of the environment, and I want to be in as much control as possible. And so I think really fighting for control, fighting for some growth, fighting for something that I could be proud of with my kids, I think is what really fuels me. And I want to have a good life. I tell people this all the time. A lot of people, they don't understand that if you hang around certain people, especially in South Florida, you're in Boca Raton, and you start getting access and seeing what's over the horizon, over the mountaintop,
right.
I can't unsee that, right? I can't unsee that there's another entrance over here to go into that's quicker and faster.
Another level.
I can't unsee that this car over here is much more comfortable than that car over there, and that this flight and this seating is much more comfortable, and that this access and that this food is better. And when you start understanding that, that's why people are depressed, back to that. And that's what drives me. I don't want what's left over. I don't want the basic plan. I don't want to be crammed up in the back of a Spirit flight like this. I don't want to drive in a car that is uncomfortable. And so I just want what is possible. And if someone else can share in these things, why would I not want to do those too?
Right.
Why would I want to deny my children to that? And so I want to be treated like a human being, and I want as much freedom as possible. And so many people seem to be okay with just giving up their freedom, giving up control, submitting to a process, submitting to someone else's process, or just falling in line. And I'd rather be dead than to fall in line.
Listen, I get that. I get that. I love the way you wired. Spending my whole life on Wall Street in that business, you can't unsee things.
Right.
You can't untaste.
Yeah, so perfect example. You were sharing a story with me. I haven't had a story like that yet in my life. I've had some good stories, but I haven't been in that circle for an extended period of time.
Right.
And so you can't forget that. So every time you're eating a meal, and every time you go and get the shitty room at a hotel, and every time you miss your seating on the flight, and you're sitting somewhere where you weren't before, you're there.
I don't know how you ever go on a Spirit flight. You're a big boy. You're a big kid.
I try not to, but the fact that you have to sit on the flight and you know that a few years ago I was doing this, or I'm usually doing this. So it's a reminder, because the treatment is different. The air,
everything.
The food, everything is different. And I'm working towards that, and working not only just towards that, because some people just want to go one time.
They just want to taste.
They just want to taste. No, that's even worse. That's worse.
Well, to some people it is, yes. Some people, they depressed the whole life because now they know what they can't have.
Yeah.
I was very happy being ignorant. But once somebody, once
Ignorance
the wizard was revealed, I wanted to be the wizard.
Yes, and that's the only thing I would ask for is if you're going to take things away, take away my. I'm a little superstitious. Don't take away my memory, but I will say, to your point, the ignorant times were the most blissful times.
Yes, I agree
Sleeping
with
on
that.
the floor in that mattress never stopped me from meeting a
And
girl.
laughing,
never stopped me from having a great night.
Laughing and just having
with
fun.
Confidence.
Right.
Well, I would walk into the room like, hey,
Right.
this is where I'm sleeping.
Right.
And
I didn't know
care.
what I didn't have.
Right. Now, oh my God, I'll never recover from that.
I get
and it's just the more you know. And so at the end of the day, I'd like to, out of respect for myself and my family, do what I'm capable of as much as possible without excuses. And and I just can't unsee it.
I love it. Now you have 3 children.
3 children.
You
9.
have. Give me the ages.
9, 13, and 24.
Okay. Now where do the 9 and 13-year-old live?
They're in Atlanta with me.
So you're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I heard that today. That
Yeah.
you. For some reason, I thought you were here.
I'm going back and forth, so I fly back and forth right now. But I need.
Where do you stay when you're here?
In Boca.
You have a house? You stay in a hotel?
No, I just sold my house in Parkland, so I stay right around the office, right here by Town Center.
Well, you're not sleeping in Town Center.
Oh no, no, the hotel over there.
Those days.
I would have though. My new office in Atlanta, I probably will sleep there a couple of nights.
Listen, where in Atlanta can we find you?
Midtown Atlanta, right by the Google building, brand new Google building, brand new Forever Young Atlanta office, right in the heart of the city.
Now, little Birdie told me you guys were opening like 3 offices in Atlanta. In
We have Marietta, we have Woodstock, we have Johns Creek, but this is the first one in the city. So
okay, but there will be 3, or the 3 underway.
Supposedly, that would be up to us,
right?
But I'm gonna get this. I like to focus on one thing at a time.
I love that you shared that about that. You shared that. I saw a clip.
Yeah.
That you're not a multitasker.
No. I mean, not well. At least one thing at a time.
That's what a stud says. Who really can. But you like to get your teeth on something, and you just like to just ride it home.
Yeah.
I'm like that. That's. I felt like you spoke to me. A lot of the things that you post, I relate to.
I appreciate it.
And that I don't share that with a lot of younger guys, but I did with you, and it's very interesting because this whole thing with Valentine's Day you're posting. How do we find you online?
So online, Carlton _ Washington, CARLTON _ Washington _ or LinkedIn, Carlton Washington MBA. I communicate mostly on those. I use it as my business card. Or you can go to foreveryoung.com with the number 4. That's where the business lies. But we'll be all over the place in the wellness and aesthetic world. We're opening in Atlanta in March. So just a ton of content, a ton of events.
Yeah.
Which I'll invite you to.
I hope I'm going to get invited from now.
100%.
I better be on that list.
Oh, 100%. The Atlanta one will be a spectacle.
I'm outraged that I wasn't personally invited.
Yeah, we'll have a red carpet just for you.
I want to say Paula Morera. She called me up and said, "You got to go. It's in Boca." I said,
"Awesome."
Forever 21. She goes. I keep saying that. She goes, "No, Forever Young."
Yeah.
I said, "Where is this place?" Everything today is maps. I mean, I'm like, it's 2.8 miles from my house. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. In the old days, I would have jogged over.
Right.
But no, it was what a party, bro. I mean. I was I don't want to say staggered, but I did spend 112 months in federal custody.
Yeah.
And so that was like I've been doing all these different events because I'm trying to create content and shake hands and let people know I'm out and about, and I'm on the come up again at this age doing things, And but that was really the best party. I've been to some good parties, I'll be honest. But that was just overall, it was like I was shocked.
Well, that's the whole point. We try to do it from the lens of what would you want.
So well done, bro.
And I'm like, I was born in 1979. I grew up on Miami Vice, so when I see Miami, I think like that type of
Don Johnson.
Yeah, we want to give it to you Miami Vice style, and that's really the really where the business came from. Was like we wanted to be those guys, and we wanted to do it Miami style, like that. Don Johnson, It Tubbs.
I tell you and your partner, I could see Don Johnson and his boy had nothing on you guys. I mean, maybe a Ferrari, but I'm sure that's easily taken care of.
We love that
days.
era. The thing about that event is it's to make sure people have. We want to not only is it a charitable event, but we want to make sure people are having a good time. And I think that's what people forget about a lot of time when they're selling anything or doing anything. Do it so that people enjoy, and the money will come later. And so we don't make any money from that event at all. We do it for our patients. We do it for the community. And it always pays dividends later on because people associate you with the great time that they had.
That was a statement event. It was, and I get that. And I've been preaching that lately to some people. If you focus on the money, you'll never have any.
Exactly.
You have to focus on being great.
Yes.
If you focus on being great at stuff, guess what? Money will come.
Absolutely.
Fame will come. Notoriety will come. All of that comes. But you focus on the money, you'll never have any. It's just the way it is. I'm smart enough to recognize and understand wisdom. I might not have calculated it because I'm not that smart, but I recognize wisdom and I can understand it, appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Where do we see Carlton Washington in 5 years?
Wow, that's a great question. Honestly, I haven't gotten that far. It goes back to what you're saying before, focusing on one thing.
You're focused right now.
If we can get this going in Atlanta, then.
What do you mean if?
Well,
Who are you kidding?
I'm a paranoid, superstitious type of guy when
You're
it comes
getting
to that. That's like my superpower right there. Because if I wasn't nervous,
right,
then something wouldn't be right. But I would like to have grown and added massive value to Forever Young, further value.
Okay.
I'd like for this to be the household name in wellness and aesthetics. I would like to really have a legacy built upon that, and I would like that legacy to allow me to go back and help the people that want to be helped, not help everyone, just the people that want to be helped, and share with them some wisdom, pass that down to people that I can help, and really just spend the rest of my life doing that, helping people that want to be helped and helping out my family.
I believe that while the industry is not in its infancy, probably 95% of this population has no idea what you do
right.
as far as real wellness.
Right.
They don't even understand. People don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a big educational hurdle because we're fighting the people that don't want you to be well.
That's a whole nother thing. You're going against, the real mafia.
Right.
The pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
You show me a pharmaceutical company, I'll show you $100 billion plus entity.
Yes.
Okay, now, we have some one-word answer questions for you. So I already see you're going to be a difficult cat. But you're only allowed one word.
Got it.
So you gotta think, okay? Cardio or weights?
Weights.
Okay. Morning or evening workout?
Morning.
Your go-to supplement? You allowed one.
Medical or non-medical? Like vitamin shop supplement or?
I'm going to give you a chance. You could throw in one of each.
Okay. On the medical side, testosterone.
Okay.
On the vitamin aisle, I'm going to say a hydration electrolyte blend is the number one. So LMNT for me is my go-to supplement. It's LMNT. It is simply magnesium, potassium, and and sodium.
This is from a very educated guy in this arena, so I'm learning. I hope you guys are paying attention. Nelson, you should be taking notes. One word, a health goal.
Weight loss.
How about longevity? That's a good one. That's popped
Okay.
into my.
Well, that would
got
be
it.
weight loss for longevity then.
Smoothie or juice?
Smoothie.
Sleep or exercise?
Sleep.
Interesting. I would have said the same. The biggest health myth?
The biggest health myth that I'm running into right now goes along with the supplement that we just talked about, which is the sodium myth in terms of blood pressure and moderation of your cardiovascular function and whatnot. People believe that the salt and sodium is bad for you, when in fact I take in lots and lots of sodium and salt, which has really helped me with my heart, with me having an abnormal rhythm, with me trying to starve off having any cardiovascular events. It's been sodium, magnesium, potassium, which is salt and water.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Very interesting. Fasting, yes or no?
Would love to. No, haven't done it.
Okay. But it's probably a great thing for
I think
you.
it's great. I just haven't done it.
Best stress reliever?
The gym.
Okay. Better than sex?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Your favorite cheat meal? You're a big boy.
Probably got to be good cheeseburger.
Okay.
Fries, yeah.
I've been eating cheeseburgers lately. Those are that's been my cheat meal of late, just so you know. Hydration or nutrition?
Hydration.
Yoga or meditation?
Yoga.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Rest day essential?
Massage.
Love it. All right, we're going to talk about your mindset stuff now. Gratitude or ambition?
It's got to be gratitude.
Yeah, brutal questions. I mean, morning routine essential?
My hydration.
You're very big on hydration.
The electrolyte, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been told that I am
Lifesaver.
always dehydrated. That's what the doctor told me. You're always dehydrated.
Save your
You
life.
live in dehydration.
I think a lot of people's heart attacks and
Yep.
things of that nature are coming from electrolyte imbalance and dehydration. It solves for so much, and it actually can cause massive improvements in your cognitive function and all of your functions throughout the day. Is that salt water, magnesium, potassium? It's a game changer.
I'm going to take that away, believe me. Mindset book recommendation.
4-Hour Work Week by
Love
Tim
it.
Ferriss.
Love it. One word motivator.
Dominate.
Love that. Failure or regret?
Failure.
Your biggest mindset challenge.
The one I'm currently going through right now is for one word or?
Well, no, you could expand on it.
I would say going through right now. I'm going from a place where I've gone from the bottom, went to the top of my business, sold my business, and am now going right back down to restart that business. And so right now, going back into the places, rolling up the sleeves, going to the trenches. That's the biggest mindset challenge I'm having right now.
I love it. That's my whole. I feel this a similar type of vibe. Discipline or motivation?
Discipline, always.
Do you consider yourself a disciplined guy?
I can be. I lost it. Again, we were talking about alcohol and stuff like that.
Yep.
I started drinking a little bit too much last year. I had a lot of leisure time once I sold the business. And so I've had to recreate the fundamentals of starting the business, which is now I'm going on at least 90 days dry, no alcohol. I'm disciplined when I don't have distractions, and alcohol was becoming a distraction even from the weekend.
Strong man. You're a strong man. You have strong mental. Optimism or realism?
Realism.
Interesting. Okay. Your daily affirmation?
Daily affirmation for me is just I try to be thankful for what I have, and don't be a pussy.
I love it. I love that. I talk to myself like that. I get yelled at for using those words. But I'm not going to yell at you.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
thank
gonna
you God
toast
for
you, bro.
everything. Don't be a pussy. Let's go.
Step
Let's
up
go.
to the fucking plate.
Yeah.
Big deal. Ooh, the pitch is closer. It's hard. You might get hit. Big deal.
Yeah.
Happiness in one word.
Thanksgiving.
I love that. I would say family, but that's a great.
It's inclusive of that.
Yes, it's a great answer. Your best mindset habit.
Go to the gym no matter what.
I got to listen to that. Fear or doubt?
Doubt.
Wow. Okay. Passion or purpose?
Purpose.
I love it. Legacy or impact?
I would have said legacy before, but now I'd say impact. A guy I look up to really kind of changed my mind on that in stating that legacy is very ego driven.
It is.
And it's a lot of bullshit. And impact is undeniable.
Right. I'm a very big legacy guy because I have a big ego. It's
Yeah.
but it's 100% correct. You're very cerebral. Success in one word. Whew. One word.
Family. would be it.
That's
but
what I say.
It has to be unpacked, but your family.
That's
yeah.
what I say.
Yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
You know, I was in prison, and I got to say that you don't know if you're ever going to get out of prison when you're in prison. This country, at my age, all the different things. And I met a lot of different guys inside. You know, guys come in, they go, they come in, they go, they transfer here, they transfer there. And I used to say to myself, at least I have a family. I have a family.
Right.
A wife, children. They have lives. That's a legacy in a true sense. And people to call, people to visit. Now, of course, I had friends and I have all these different things. But, you know, you think of if it's all over, if you're not getting out, you know, at least I did have a lot of impact. I did create a legacy for myself. I did some things that nobody had ever done, reached levels of success that were huge by any means, any stretch of standard. But I used to say, I'm successful. This is for me.
Right.
This is for me because I had a family. It was very, very important. Bro, I just want to say I'm so happy that we met. I'm sort of proud of you in an older guy, younger guy way.
No, thank you.
You're a special guy. You're extremely cerebral. And you're also a friggin' beast.
I appreciate it.
Whose healthy mindset is either to always go to the gym. And I just want to thank you for coming in today.
Thank you. And I have one question for you as well.
Yes,
two parts. Who's the
appreciate
most interesting character you met during your time in, and what is the most non-cliche, the most impactful, deep thing that that you couldn't have gotten any other way that you learned during that time that you feel like someone like myself could gain from them? Like the most impactful thing where you're like, had an aha moment when you're in there and you're seeing all the different people coming and going. Who's the most impactful person and the most impactful thing that someone like me who hasn't had that experience could think about?
I'll share that with you. We talked about it. It's been a common thread throughout a lot of your story today, and it's certainly a common thread throughout my entire life story. But it's something I don't share much because most people don't ask me this question. But you're very, very intelligent. I want you to know that.
No, thank you.
So your birth mother, your birth father, whatever they did for you, you have a good mind. You have a hungry mind, and you're purpose driven. I think you're also passion driven. But I get your answer. For me, you know, there was a time when I was in solitary. I was locked in a room by myself. They told me I could shower once a week, and I would spend 3-4 days without even any interaction with another person or human being, not another voice, nothing. It was during COVID. I was in quarantine. I don't even know if I was being punished, but it was just such a crazy time in the real world. Imagine in the prison world. The cops didn't even want to come to the door because they were talking about people were dying and you're breathing, and guys didn't want to. And various points in my life, the ones that were the most painful, even though for many, many years I didn't believe, the most impactful person was God to me. And people say, do you believe in God? You're Ross Mandel. Tell us the truth. I said, I don't believe in God, but I know God. I don't have to believe. It's like, do I believe in Carlton Washington? No, I can honestly say I know Carlton Washington today. Right? So I know God because at the times when I should have been the most broken or the most challenged, the most, let's say, depressed, the most down, God was there for me. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to say to somebody that hasn't had that experience, but He's there. And, you don't always have to find God. If you just live open, if you're open-minded, He'll find you. And it's funny because I'm a real person that I'm truly a flawed person, I'm a flawed man. And oftentimes I lean on God when there's nothing else. when I can't even call somebody else, when I could have money, funds in my commissary account, but I can't buy it. It's nothing to buy. There's no one to even communicate with. I can say that I was never alone. I never went through anything alone in my life. Now, of course, when I was 16, my father dropped dead. And I went crazy, really. Drugs, alcohol, dangerous things, and I could have been dead 100 times. It's shocking that I'm not dead.
Right.
That's consistent through my story. That's because I've done a lot of crazy things, just guy things, driving cars, accidents,
Yeah.
people getting killed and dying and dropping dead all around me all the time. And I'm 67. I'm like, how am I still around? And it's just a God thing. It's a God thing. These are words, but in my life, they have great meaning. And I say that you're never alone. Never. Are you open to receiving God's grace? It's grace. I don't even know how to explain it. At the times when I should have been my most troubled, in my most pain, in my most challenged, God delivered grace to me. I don't know how to explain it any other way. And, most of the time when I was my thickest and I was rolling and I could do no wrong and I had thousands of people that worshiped me and emulated me, all these different things, I didn't feel the grace of God. And I think that's my fault because I didn't know that's when I should have been on my knees. Because of gratitude, because everything that's been bestowed upon me, good, bad, and ugly, has come from some sort of divine purpose. So
right.
I share that with you as a younger guy, and I sense this about you. I sense it. I feel it like God is with you, and he's been with you during your entire story, through your birth into the foster system, through, sort of the escapades of your life, which I'm sure was very difficult at certain times. But almost the feelings that you expressed today mirrored a lot of the feelings that I've had along the way, such as sleeping on the floor, rich guy, I'm worth 150, 200 million, liquid business, thousands of people working for me. And I was more popular with women and people when I was dead broke.
Right,
and I
right,
was just fucking 17 years old running around because I didn't give a shit and all these different things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Being wealthy is not overrated.
Right.
I love the line from The Wolf of Wall Street. I've been a rich man, I've been a poor man, I choose rich every time.
Right.
But when you do go back and you measure your life, just by having material wealth is not a marker for feeling my best. I sometimes felt my most whole in my most troubled times. And that's why, now I'm in a new industry with podcasting. I'm doing this 4 months.
Right.
And but in a sense, I feel I've been doing it my whole life in an odd way. And I'm in e-commerce. I'm selling a curriculum. I'm trying to really help and educate people in terms of business. There's not a business guy, rich, billionaire, millionaire, or a struggling kid that wouldn't benefit 1,000-fold by buying my $300 curriculum on Lightspeed today. I'm just sharing that with you. Because guys like you you need this. There are tidbits in there that you just don't know, or it's not your focus, or you know one thing, but you didn't realize there's two other choices. If you don't know, you don't know. I spent a year doing that with very, very smart people. And so I'm entering this whole new world, and I'm not a kid, and I have a family now, and sort of this is Ross 3.0.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I've done it already and lost it many times. And, while I'm each leg of the journey, I have a lot more resources than I had. But I've also climbed higher mountaintops, and I want to get it all back. And the view from $350 million is a lot different than the view from $2 million. So, the long and the short of it is, in the absence of people, God. And God puts people in your life for different times, different seasons, different reasons, etc. And they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I find that true in my life. And I've leaned on men, some men my age, usually older. I've had someone just ask me I was a guest on Catalina McGee. Cat, what's up, baby? Brilliant podcaster. Who's Miss Romania, fashion model, but cerebral also.
Definitely.
And she says, so tell me about your mentors. People don't ask me that. And Tony Robbins was a mentor. I had lunch with him in 1986.
Wow.
He influenced me a great deal. We were his stockbrokers back in the day, flipping IPOs and making a lot of money. A younger Tony Robbins, who still sold out Madison Square Garden in 1986.
Right.
Standing room only. We were at the break, private lunch. Make a long story short, he's still selling out arenas.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing. So 39 years later. So he's the GOAT in that arena, to me. But I've had several, and I discussed them. But for the purposes of responding to that question, I have to say that I've met some really crazy, great people, like the El Chapo of Guatemala.
Right.
He was my bunkie for about 2 months. We became really close friends. And he taught me this simple concept that there are only two types of people in this world. There's only two. Throughout your story, I thought about it a lot. He goes, there are workers and there are bosses. Well, that's how real gangsters think.
Right.
You're a worker, you're a soldier, or you're the boss. It's one of two. That's it. When you're in prison, it's very, very,
Right.
You're either paying homage or you're receiving homage.
Right.
And he goes to me within a minute, he goes, you're a boss. He goes, I knew it from the moment that you walked in, the way you hold yourself, the way you handle yourself, the way you look me in the eye, the way we talk. You're a boss. It was very interesting. So, this is a God thing for whatever the reason. I hope you guys are paying attention out there because there's so much you can learn from this podcast. This is a truly special guy, and he's on a special journey. And thanks again. What a privilege.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it.
Really, so grateful. And I just want to say that's all, folks. We'll see you soon. Thank you.